Let's get cozy.
Let's get cozy.
Welcome back to a new episode of
That Gym Couple podcast.
hosted by Callum and Lucy.
Smashed it again.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Well,
Busy.
yeah, January, busy time.
Yeah, I'm going to just try and make sure I'm talking into the mic because after 9 episodes, I apparently still don't know how to talk
It's like
into
you'll
the
be
mic.
fine at the start, and then by the end, you just
Because I get so engrossed, I forget that I'm doing a podcast. I get so engrossed.
your head. By like about halfway through, your head turns. So like now, you're facing towards me.
I know, it's because I want to be comfortable, you know?
Which is fine.
Is that all
But
right
then,
like that?
but then the mic needs to be in front of your face.
Is that okay, like that?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I'm good, thanks. But, you know, first week back. Well, no, it's not. It's the second week back at work, but it's January. And as you know, it's a busy time of year. Good, busy. I wouldn't have it any other way, but busy nevertheless.
Yeah.
Working till like 9 p.m. most nights. But we love it. We love to see it. I love seeing people wanting to get started on their goals. And I love, more than anything, that people are coming to me because I put forward a very healthy, sustainable approach to fat loss. And we know for a fact that this time of year, there's a lot of unsustainable methods to fat loss.
You
Diving straight in this week.
Little like self-promotion straight off the bat.
Well, yeah. Who else is going to do it?
Big yourself up.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, no, it's just the truth. Like,
Yeah.
my methods are
Well,
sustainable.
That's what you go for, isn't it? That's how you market yourself, and that's how you act. You act.
Yeah. Sweet.
You know, that's how you promote health and fitness.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. And I think, you know, as I've just dived straight in, but that is kind of what we're going to be discussing this week on the episode, is all about fad diets. So kind of like the opposite of what my coaching is.
We're just going straight in, are we?
Oh, sorry. How are you?
Thank you.
How could I?
I know.
Sorry. How are you?
I'm well. Again, it's been busy start to the year. We've had a busy kind of week and a half, I guess.
Yeah. It's just, and you always think, and maybe by next week I'll think that January is going really slow, but you know, the weekends start to fill up. My days are really busy at the moment and it's just flying by, but to be honest, it's good.
By next week, it will be, you know, it's midway through January. So the third week of January is going to be a slower one.
Yeah.
That's typically what happens. It drags out in that third week because you're like, oh, God, this is a slog now. Like, I've done 2 weeks of this.
And it is very, very cold at the moment.
Oh, your flat was horrendously cold this morning.
And for the past, 4 days, my heating's been broken.
And she didn't even realise you knew yesterday it was cold.
Yeah, I mean, I've been absolutely, I can't feel my fingers, but I've been pacing, just getting through it.
Yeah.
Thinking that it will just magically come back on. But it turns out it wasn't actually broken. I just accidentally flicked the switch in the boiler cupboard. So yeah, it wasn't working, but it's all fixed now and it's all toasty and nice. But yesterday I was typing because I literally couldn't feel my fingers. It was awful. Doing check-ins, wrapped up in a blanket with a hot water bottle.
Yeah, that's not okay.
No.
Especially if you work from home, you can't.
No, exactly.
You got to the gym in the afternoon, you were like,
I couldn't feel my toes.
So cold.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's because you've been sat there doing nothing all day.
I know.
Well, I'd say nothing, but you haven't moved.
Yeah.
You've just been in one spot, sitting there, just doing all your check-ins.
Yeah.
By
a cold window.
That? Yeah.
I know. That's why I look forward to the gym every day, because it's my one time to actually
warm up.
Yeah, that. And actually just do something and speak to people in face to face.
Yeah.
Otherwise I'm so isolated. That's why I really struggle on my rest days, because I could be at home all day and I'm like, okay, I need to interact with a human being now.
Yeah, you're quite good at getting yourself up and out if you feel like you need to sort of get out and be amongst.
It's definitely harder to
public.
do when you're not. It's a rest day because you're like, well, I'm not going to the gym today, so you just got to go for a walk. But then it's freezing. But yeah,
good. Right, well, let's jump straight in. So we're going to start off by talking about some fitness myths, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Or gym myths. Do you want to go first and then I'll do seconds?
Yeah, so I think if anyone watched last week or listened to last week, it would help if I had my phone. It's actually over there.
Let me grab that boy. Yeah, you
Thanks.
Explain.
Yeah, so last week on the poddy, we said that we were going to bust some myths. I feel like that needs a jingle. I think it's plugged into my laptop, isn't it? We're going to bust some myths because January, there is a lot of...
Sorry, did you ever watch that program, Mythbusters?
No, I don't think so, but sounds like a show.
So good. It's just bust myths.
Yeah,
Standard.
that's what it says in the tin then. Yeah. We know that kind of this time of year in particular, a lot of people are maybe signing on with coaches, maybe joining apps or starting a new diet or whatever it is. We know typically this is the time of year that most people are going to be doing that. And there's a lot of misconceptions still out there, and there's a lot of myths that...
There's a lot of bullshit.
Yeah, basically. So we are going to bust that wide open right now. Okay, I'll go first. Myth number 1. You have to cut carbs to lose fat.
Yeah.
What?
No, sorry. Just when you said...
That was me going... buzzer.
It made a funny mark on the audio thing.
Anyway, yeah. So you have to cut carbs to lose fat.
I mean, the myth there is generally you have to cut anything to lose fat other than calories.
Yeah, you don't have to cut any specific foods out of your diet to lose body fat. And I still to this day speak to women who say, I don't eat carbs because I know they'll make me fat, or, carbs are the enemy. And it's really sad, actually, because I couldn't survive without carbs. Pasta is my favourite thing ever.
Yeah, I think if you think about carbs in general, of course, there's simple carbs, which are your sugars that are quick releasing energy. And then you've got your complex carbs, which are, all right, putting faces, which are things like rice, oats, whole meal breads and pasta and stuff like that. So they're what you should build your carbs around. And that's energy. It's just energy.
So I'm not going to go into the scientific detail of it, but
go on.
Carbs essentially get turned into a molecule which is called ATP, which is literally the molecule energy. It is what gives us energy. So carbohydrates are our main source of energy. If you cut carbs completely out of your diet, you're going to struggle. Some people do it and get used to it.
And I think that's something we should probably touch on. I've got clients who handle a higher fat diet, for instance. So their fats might be higher, but their carbs will be lower because typically protein will stay the same. So they deal with they deal better on a high fat diet. It's not to say they've got no carbs in their diet at all, because that would be so.
But also, there's carbs in other foods. We're not. Yeah. You have to also remember that it's not just the carb proportion, I guess is the word, would be smaller in foods like vegetables, right? But the carbs people think of when they say carbs is obviously rice, pasta, potatoes, things like that. And some people still to this day are just cutting them right out of their diet, and you don't have to do that. And also, let's remember that that's not very sustainable, because at some point in your life, you're probably going to want a pasta dish or some rice. That's okay. In order to lose fat, you just need to be in a calorie deficit. Yep. You can still have carbohydrates, just in moderation, everything else. Yep. So, hope that helps if that's something that you were worrying about.
Fantastic.
Your myth?
My first myth is energy drinks are bad for you.
Ooh, such a good one.
So there are some caveats to this. Diet and non-sugar ones are better from a dieting perspective. And obviously anything with a high sugar content, higher calorie, from a dieting perspective is not going to be good for you. High caffeine content can be harmful for those who are pregnant or obviously have a predisposed sensitivity to caffeine. I know you don't deal with caffeine too well.
No, I'm quite cautious of how much I have in the
day.
But
I wonder if that's because you don't have a lot of caffeine in the day.
Yeah,
so
I'm
it's
not
maybe
used
a
to
little
it.
bit more, yeah.
But then also I get quite anxious as a person, and caffeine can make anxiety worse.
Of course,
so.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
When people build up a tolerance to caffeine, that's why they're like, I need 12 coffees in a day just to wake me up in the morning. And you just have a day where you don't have 12 coffees and see how you feel after a few weeks, and then have one coffee and you'll feel that. But it's not inherently bad. There's a whole attack going on at the moment on diet drinks, diet sodas, diet energy drinks, whatever they are. So inherently, like, they are not bad on their own. The issue is when it comes to the sweeteners and the content they use, which can, in vast quantities, be not very good for you.
That's the key thing, isn't it?
And that's it.
Vast quantities.
If you are having a, let's say, Monster Energy drink, Ultra, everyone loves them before, like, in and around training. Everyone in the gym loves them. Like, they're constantly, like, we sell them, like, they're everywhere. They, around training, so before training and stuff like that, perfectly fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Even, now, hear me out, even a sugary one is fine prior to training, because it is simple carbs, which is used for quick releasing energy, which is going to give you energy for your training session. But if you are on a calorie deficit diet, probably don't bother with the sugar ones, because
and also, like, it's
waste of energy.
Everything we say here, it's like, we don't want you, like, anything having loads of it is not going to be good for you. Like, anything in life, too much is not going to be good for you. It needs to be in moderation. But yeah, the whole panic around certain drinks, realistically, it's if you have it in vast quantities, it is.
Yeah, and like, I know people who do have...
Is the light still on?
Yeah, they're still good. They're all watching.
Cool.
I know people who do have 3, 4, 5 energy drinks a day, and they're just smashing them in all the time. Probably not good for you in a vast quantity. Like, it's probably not great, but the only thing that's kind of bad in that sense is there's a lot of caffeine going in. The jury's still out on the artificial flavors and sweeteners, but it can't be that great because they're artificial flavors and sweeteners.
Well, yeah, and I think at that point you probably need to also have a wider look at your diet and think, if you're needing that much to keep you going throughout the day, what are you eating? How much water are you drinking? Yeah,
of course. And this is why I'm saying, like, it probably depends on when you're having them as well. If you're just feeling a little bit sluggish, then there are other ways you can
don't rely on them.
Don't rely on them. I've definitely been addicted to them before. Like, there's been times where I've not necessarily craved them. I guess maybe addiction's probably the wrong word there, but I've gone to them before I've gone for anything else. Yeah. Because it's convenient. I like the flavour.
It's quick. And you notice when you drink one, you notice that peak in energy. I had the best leg session the other day. Hit so many PBs. I was like, what is happening? I was like, yes, the bulk is working. I was like, had a monster for the first time in months. A monster? Not good. That's so funny, because like a monster would barely touch me. Yeah, it's because your tolerance is... But that's it. I drink coffees. I take pre-workout. So like a pre-workout that I'll take now is... There you go. That's a good thing. If you want to try and cut out that diet energy drink, or the energy drink in your diet in general, and your training, maybe think about pre-workouts. There's loads of different types out there. There's loads that have different effects. I mean, yours is quite tame compared to some of them. Because I don't like that much caffeine, and it doesn't give me like the shakes. It doesn't. And like mine's a little bit more intense, but it's not. I don't get like a massive crash from it. Things like that. Cool. What's your number 2? Cool. Number 2. Myth, sorry, I just skipped to number 3. No, myth number 2. Lifting weights makes you bulky. If I had a pound for every time I heard someone say it. To be fair, mostly women, because most guys don't care about looking bulky. They want to look bulky. The goal. Yeah. The amount of times I've heard women, especially when I was like a sales manager in the gym, and I used to have to tour people around a lot more, and you're showing women the gym floor, and they're like, "Oh no, I don't want to get bulky. I don't want to get like really, muscly. I don't think that's very attractive." God, if I had like the ability for you to train within 2 weeks and you'd get a load of muscle, how massive do you think I'd be? I'd be ginormous. In fact, I've been training at the gym for years. You'd be absolutely ginormous. Same. And I think maybe everyone's definition of bulky is different.
Of course, it's like when people say, "I just want to tone up." Like technically, doesn't really mean anything.
No,
because everyone's very different. What you mean is you want to be a bit leaner, but you want a bit
defined.
of muscle.
Yeah. So you do need a bit of muscle for that.
And it's the same. It's the same with being bulky.
Yeah.
They picture it as, you know, basically having muscle on show.
Yeah, without tensing or.
Which you have to have a lot of muscle.
Yeah.
And be lean.
Yeah.
So that's very difficult to achieve in the first place
for
your average person, and to maintain all year round, it's very difficult. Obviously, people have different genetic predispositions anyway.
Yeah, there's so many things, but unfortunately, I think that myth in particular is why a lot of women shy away from lifting weights and go straight for the cardio. And I completely understand it, but lifting weights is one of the best tools for fat loss. As time goes on, we've proven that it's not just the cardio.
Yeah,
lifting weights is great for fat loss too. You're not going to get bulky. I mean, you might build a bit of muscle, but that looks good.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely, and you'll feel better.
But as Callum said, it takes a long time to build muscle, let me tell you, and you have to eat a lot of food to build muscle. You simply can't build muscle without eating enough food to help actually grow the muscle tissue. So yeah. Don't worry about that. Your myth number 2.
So my myth number 2 is, I guess kind of in the same sort of area. Body fat spot reduction isn't possible, and high rep workouts do not increase fat burning.
Sorry, say that again. That's really weird because I thought you would say you've gone for a slightly different spin on yours. Mine are sort of like if I thought there you were going to say you can spot reduce fat, because you know when people are always like, oh, I really want to lose weight on my inner thighs.
Yeah, you can't spot reduce fat.
No, so you've gone for a different spin on that.
On a caveat, on top of that, this is like an addition. High rep workouts do not increase fat burning. So yeah, kind of like you get it all the time where people are like, oh, I've got a bit of fat on my stomach, so I'm just do loads of ab workouts.
Yeah.
It's not how it works. It might feel like that's what's happening because your muscles are contracting. They feel like they're really burning, and you're like, oh my God, like
I'm doing something.
I'm doing something here. What you're doing is just working the muscles.
Yeah.
The fat,
which is underneath the fat,
all over. So obviously you need to be in a caloric energy deficit for fat loss. We know that. That's science. Like that is just science. And you can't target body parts by doing a load of reps on that area.
Yeah. Not to say that you shouldn't train that.
No, of course.
Abs are a muscle like any other body part. You should still train them. Yeah. But if you want to see abs, which a lot of women say to me, like, I want to be able to see my abs, you have to be pretty lean for that because they're covered by body fat.
Like this.
Yeah.
Women typically, and this kind of comes on to my second point, each individual has a different genetic makeup of where their body fat storage is. And typically for men, it's... Oh, God, just attached my mic. Typically for men, it's around the midsection. That's where the spare tire analogy comes from.
Hips.
That's where men typically carry their fat. It's around the stomach, on the back, places like that. For women, it's typically more on the limbs. So you might find it on the legs, the glutes, the arms.
Perfect. Lucky us.
Yeah, all the places that are on show.
Yeah, basically.
Whereas guys can kind of hide it nicely with a t-shirt. But yeah, that's typically where it is. Obviously, that does change per person. Like some people will find some guys watching this might be like, I always get like really fat like arms if I'm putting bulk in or putting weight on or something. Women might find it's more around the stomach area. It just completely depends on your genetic makeup.
Yeah.
So by me saying like, oh, if I get water and fat on my legs quite a bit. Like I've got big legs, but that's typically where most of it lies. Not most of it, but some of it. But if I just trained legs loads and just did loads of high rep sets, it's not doing anything other than fatiguing my muscles, which is making my muscles grow. Which, if anything, is probably going to make my legs look bigger and more watery, which therefore makes them look fatter.
Yeah. Good one. I guess that kind of ties in as well. A lot of women worrying about, you know, having lower body fat and obviously like that bump. And, you know, obviously there's a difference between having body fat on your stomach, which, as we were just saying, you can't just train your abs and expect that to go away. That mainly is going to be nutrition based as well.
Yeah.
But also, like, that is literally where our reproductive organs are.
Yeah, you've got essential
like a
organs in
womb,
there.
like-
There's a big space in there, which
Yeah.
is
Again, which
taken up.
everyone's is going to look slightly different,
Yeah.
but us women, like, aspiring to have the flattest stomach and maybe not a six pack. We've not all got the same
Some,
goals.
yeah.
Be careful, because that will be making a noise.
No, I know. I'm sorry. It's just like I feel like I'm kind of leaning over a little bit.
Yeah. That aspiration to have a completely flat stomach is really, to be honest, unrealistic. Not for everyone, but for a lot of us, it is.
It's for a lot of men as well.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Put it this way: it's a lot easier for men to lose fat, especially around that midsection. It's
Just another thing they get to have easier.
Men are supposed to be in a lower body fat percentage than women.
Still filming.
Women are supposed to have higher body fat.
Yeah, they are, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is weird because you're always cold.
Yeah, I know. But also, again, that comes back to, and we'll move on to the next point in a second, but it comes back again to where genetics, where you hold your fat. Some people that you see on social media, for example, that have the firmest stomach and it's really tight and they've got abs or whatever, chances are they just don't hold fat in that area. Maybe they hold it somewhere else that we just can't see.
Or if it's like one person's pictures you're seeing, it's probably that they lost a load of weight,
good light,
got really, really lean, did a photo shoot, got loads of content, and they're posting it again and again and again and again because that's another little, I guess, myth into the industry. People do that.
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't you? If you get good pictures and you like the way you look, you're all, good lighting, got your abs on show, you've put in a lot of hard work to get there. People will reuse these pictures over and over again.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just don't beat yourself up if you see that. Just, yeah. Sorry. Next one. Is it my go, your go?
Yeah,
My go.
yeah.
Okay. So I've sort of feeling like actually mine are kind of similar. This one's kind of similar to my first one, so I apologize. But the third one, is you can't drink alcohol on a diet or in a cut, let's say.
That's an interesting one, actually.
It's kind of similar to my first one in the sense of like cutting things out.
Yeah.
And I think by now, most people that have been listening to this podcast know that me and Callum, our standpoint on cutting foods out is just, you don't have to.
No.
And the answer, I guess, is actually pretty simple to that one. Again, you don't have to, and this is what I say to my clients, you don't have to cut anything out. We want it to be a sustainable lifestyle transformation for you.
Typically
there's calories in alcohol.
Yeah.
Like there's calories in everything that you eat and drink.
Exactly. You're just drinking calories, and it's a lot of alcohol is high calorie, like dense.
Like wine and beer, cocktails
especially
really high in calories.
Sugar content in cocktails, and because you mix in lots of things, like there's a lot of stuff going into it.
So if you do want to drink alcohol on the odd occasion, and as we've said before on the podcast, if you're cutting and you're trying to lose body fat and you're serious about it and it's important to you that you get to your goals, certain sacrifices have to be made along the way, no matter what that sacrifice is. And one of them might be cutting back on your alcohol. If you're someone that goes out every weekend, you're not going to really get results as quick as you probably
No, and there are
like.
smart ways you can go about it if you do have a very busy social life and
Absolutely.
you don't want to lose that aspect of your social life, and that's what all your friends do. Make smart choices. It's a case of drinking white spirits with a
lower calorie
mixer. It's going to help. It's not going to make a drastic difference, but it's going to help.
Like my go-to is gin, soda, lime.
Yeah.
I don't really drink, but if I do go out, I'll probably have something like a gin, soda, lime. Also doesn't make me feel as bad because if you think about all the sugars in cocktails, that's partly the hangover.
Like Jaeger bombs and stuff like that. When you think about it, do you remember? It's so bad. It's just, you're on a night out. Here's a hell of a lot of sugar because they're not using like a diet Red Bull either.
No.
So it's like a full fat Red Bull. So here's all the sugar, all the caffeine, and alcohol. What a mix!
Fun fact: when I got my GCSE results, no, that makes me sound so young. Sorry, my parents were good parents, I promise. But we go to Portugal every year, and the bar, like the nightlife used to be, it's not as good now, maybe I've just got older, but it was so good. There was a massive group of kids. We'd all go out together, all the family friends, and on GCSE results night, we all went out, and there was a few of us that all got our results. So we did the bomb squad, which is, I think it was like 10 Jaeger bombs as quick as you can, and then you get a t-shirt at the end that says bomb squad.
Nice.
And yeah, smashed it.
Where's the
Obviously
t-shirt?
threw up
Still
a lot.
got the t-shirt.
I definitely do. It's under my bed. I'm not getting rid of
It's
that.
not that one that's framed on your wall, in there.
No. But I did bomb squad and the 9 deadly sins. The 9 deadly sins was 9 different shots as quick as you can. We used to do all the challenges just to get the t-shirts. Don't try that at home, kids.
Done that. Got the t-shirt.
Yeah, I was quite cool back in the day.
One quick one on alcohol consumption as well. Alcohol, and I can't remember where I read this, but there are studies about alcohol consumption and muscle gain, and the fact that theoretically it takes you out of hypertrophy, drinking alcohol. So if you are someone who wants to build muscle, just know that there's a good chance that drinking alcohol is killing your gains.
That's very
I'll have to see if I can
interesting.
try and find the
Should
study
read up on
one,
that.
but yeah.
Yeah. And obviously another thing just to bear in mind with alcohol is you could go out with the best intentions.
Yeah.
You know, gin,
We've all
soda,
been there.
limes, and then someone asks if you want a shot or shoves a shot down your throat.
Or even worse, you have a great night, you know, you're a little bit tipsy and you're feeling kind of like you just left the club, it's 2 a.m. I know. And you know, you're on your way home, and then your mate goes, "Oh, I'm just going to get a kebab, or do you want to get a pizza,
That's
or
what
do
I
you
was
want to
gonna
get some
say.
chips?" Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's the
before
next
you know
thing.
it,
So it's that. It's the
halfway through a extra large Domino's
or a
and-
KFC. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then also you have to consider the next day as well. You're probably not going to have slept as well because you never sleep as well on alcohol.
Dehydration.
You're going to be craving sugary, fatty foods.
Yeah.
Lack of sleep disrupts your hunger hormones, meaning that you're going to feel probably hungrier the next day. So
Yeah.
you're going to want to eat more. Yeah. So that's just what you have to bear in mind with alcohol consumption on a diet, but definitely don't have to cut it out.
No. But just be more aware of maybe what you're
Choices and the consequences afterwards.
So my last one is probably I don't know how many people relate to this. I don't know. Like, I don't know if many people know what it is who are listening, but I guess we'll find out. Allegedly, there's no such thing as the anabolic window post-training. So
What do you mean?
for those,
Is that the myth?
yeah.
Okay.
So the anabolic window is a 30-minute period after training where you're supposed to get in carbs and proteins, mostly proteins, and that's supposed to help your muscles grow. That's your anabolic window. The research shows that eating protein and carbs immediately after exercise isn't crucial for maximal gains. You just have to make sure you are eating enough carbs and proteins throughout the day.
I haven't had my creatine today.
Oh, terrible.
Damn it.
You have to have it later.
Again, that is another myth though. You don't have to have that straight after training.
No, that's
Doesn't
what I
really
mean. So
matter.
eat your post-workout meal when it makes sense to you.
Yeah.
That could be before you train. It just depends on, it doesn't make sense really, it's saying post-workout meal, but you just have to make sure you're getting enough food. What I would argue is don't train feeling hungry because you won't have a good session, and don't train feeling super full because you won't have a good session. You want to train to a point where you are, you want to train at a point, sorry, is what I was trying to say.
Right.
Train at a point where you are
Fueled
and you don't feel hungry.
Yeah.
But you're not bloated. So have a play around to when suits you most, but
And
you
what foods
don't
work well.
have to eat a high protein carby meal within 30 minutes after training.
That's
and
a
I know
really good one.
for my case, like if I've just trained legs and I had a horrible session, the last thing I want to do is smash in a meal like 30 minutes within 30 minutes after training. I feel sick anyway.
Yeah, like I just said, it's the same with like creatine. Some of the research suggests that having it post-workout is best, but actually if you do look at all of the research, and obviously I haven't looked at all of the research,
Just taking
but
it, generally.
as long you can actually take it at any point in the day,
Yeah.
it does the same thing.
Yeah.
And like that's the same with spreading your meals across the day, I guess. Like, you don't really want to leave your biggest meal. You might be someone that, like me, actually, I love a good dinner. So like, I will probably save a few more calories for dinner, but I also don't want to be having like 1,000 calories for dinner. It's too much.
Yeah, of course. And like, people who skip breakfast, like, you're quite bad for it sometimes. You won't eat till later, but
I don't skip breakfast.
No,
I
you just have it later.
Yeah.
But like, people who skip breakfast and they're like, yeah, but I'm just not hungry. I'm like, it doesn't matter. You've just not eaten for however long you've been asleep. And then you're telling me that you're not going to eat until 1 o'clock or in the afternoon at some point. Maybe have a late morning snack or something, but you had dinner at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening the night before, and you're not going to eat again until 11, 12 o'clock the next day. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, yes.
Just like, get the food in.
Yeah, but it depends what your goals are. Like, for
Fuel your body.
some people love intermittent fasting.
Yeah, of course.
And it works wonders for them. And that is great if that works for you. Like,
Absolutely, but fuel your body.
Yeah, 100%. But then also you have to bear in mind that your body has just... when people say, oh, I'm not a breakfast person, or I don't really get hungry until 2 o'clock, that is probably just because your body's got so used to you doing that.
Start eating breakfast, then tell me when you start feeling hungry.
Your body will start to be like, oh, this is when I normally have a meal.
Yeah.
Or I don't normally have a meal at this time of day, so I'm not hungry. So of course
you're going to
get
have
used
so
to it.
much more energy earlier in the day as well.
Yeah.
And then actually you're probably going to... It's like people who end up... they're like, oh, like, I'm a night person, I can't fall asleep till later. When did you have your dinner? How late in the day have you been eating and drinking and stuff like that? So, you know, if you've pushed all your meals into the second half of the day, so from 12 o'clock onwards, of course you're not going to be tired by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And if you've got to get up the next morning, you're going to feel like crap because you're just not used to... Your body's not used to it, and you're not used to regulating your energy intake, calorie intake. So... keep to a routine.
Yeah, and if you know, obviously depending on what your goal is, whether it is bulking or cutting or maintaining, like, you should really have a bit of a routine with your meals so you know roughly how much you need to be eating throughout the day. Sometimes when people are in quite a big calorie deficit, for whatever reason, you do need to push the first meal back a little bit to have as much energy and those calories at a certain point. But it's always good to sort of plan your meals. And
it's a case by case scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
For the most part, if you planned your meals and actually had a breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, whatever, pre-workout, post-workout, however you want to have it, just spread your calories throughout the day.
And make sure it works with the targets you're trying to hit.
Yeah.
Cool. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah.
Myth busting.
I learned some things.
We kind of went for a different approach with that, I think.
I think we might... I kind of want to bring this back again next week. I quite enjoyed this.
Yeah, I quite like that.
Let us know if you like some myths busted next week.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do another 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Or send us the myths or the things that you want
busting.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounded wrong though.
Yeah, so we were going to touch quickly on sort of fad diets as well, weren't we? Because as we said at the beginning, this time of year, the marketing, like, oh my gosh, it's actually really fitting. So downstairs, just so many leaflets just being thrown through my letterbox about Slimming World, Weight Watchers, all these random slim fast. Like, I'm seeing all these things just being thrown through my letterbox. Yeah. And
no doubt, if you order anything from a fitness company, whether it's like a nutrition company or something like that, you will be sent leaflets to do with this, that, and that. Like Huel will send them out with everything like they possibly can do. I remember I used to get was it Muscle Foods? Did you have a Muscle Foods?
I didn't, but I know.
Oh, I used to love that. It was so good. And and then I used to get so many like random leaflets like with it.
Yeah.
And it would be like, but I was like, I've just received like loads of actual
meals.
Like,
it's a bit contradictory to what you've just ordered sometimes.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the marketing, especially at this time of year, is going to be through the roof. Like it's on adverts. Everything you watch is on the adverts. It's everywhere.
It's not
on social media.
It's not like it's not all misinformation, but there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's a lot of, I guess, misunderstanding of what people are actually getting themselves into and in for. Have you ever done any fad diets?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I've ever done a diet, as in followed along with
Yeah.
something. And that, I guess we were actually discussing this before we started recording, like what is fad? Like we say fad diet, so like flippantly sort of thing, but it's essentially, it's something that's, what did we say? Kind of gone crazy on social media.
It's kind of got a bit of a following now. So I guess you could argue that it's in the same. It's like a viral diet, really, would be like the Gen Z term for it.
And we're not saying that, you know, any of the diets. We'll avoid maybe mentioning certain diets, because I know there will be people out there who some of these diets have really, really worked for them, and if they have, that is fantastic. But I would love to find someone who has been on one of these diets long term and.
Yeah. And then, of course, there will be cases where people are. I mean, my mum. I remember growing up, my mum used to. Hi, mum. I know she listens every week. I know she used to do various fad diets, and there were some that she'd do, and she felt like they worked. She felt like they worked for her, and obviously, being as young as I was, I didn't really pay too much attention, but it would be interesting to see her perspective on it, potentially how that has affected her relationship with dieting. Because a lot of them, realistically, aren't sustainable for the long term. They're short-term gains for short-term satisfaction.
Yeah. They're very restrictive. And
restrictive.
That's why you get pretty quick results.
Yeah.
Which is great. That's what we all want.
But
we live in a world where we want things quick.
You and I both know what most of that weight coming off is.
Yes.
If it's a weight loss diet, most of it is going to be
water. But you've also probably cut something big out of your diet. And you think about what a drastic change it is. If suddenly you can't have certain foods, or something is very restrictive that you've been having a lot of,
your body's going to...
Of course you're going to drop weight quickly.
Your body's going to dump all of that water that's it's retaining in your body because of the food you've been having. It's just going to go, oh, get rid of that. So it's not essentially like you're going into a survival mode, but you know, if you suddenly cut your diet down like massively, or remove something from your diet, it's going to have adverse effects.
And if you go from, maybe you don't know what you're currently eating, but let's say you're eating 2,000 calories. If you suddenly sign up to one of these diets and they say, right, eat 1,000 calories, of course in the first week you're going to drop a lot of weight, and you probably will continue to. Fantastic, you've dropped some weight.
What's really funny is none of them advertise it that way, though, do they? What fad diet do you know that's like, hey, it's a calorie deficit diet? Because that's all they are. It's a calorie deficit diet. You're gonna, like, the 1,500 diet. This is what we're gonna call it. It's gonna be called the 1,500 diet. You're having 1,500 calories.
Well, that would be all right.
It'd be fine for you, but for me,
this is the other thing.
It wouldn't work for me, would it?
They are normally very generalized, and normally just maybe one plan sent out to everyone, and everyone's told to eat the same amount. That's not going to work. Like, people are different heights, different weights, different jobs. They're on their feet all day, or they're sat down all day. There's so many things to take into account.
Like, right at the start, I was saying that I've got clients who do better on a high-fat diet and clients who do better on a high-carb diet. If I was to say to some of my clients, like, you can no longer eat one or the other, like, it would work for some, but it wouldn't work for others.
Yeah, and that's why, as coaches, we get to know our clients and figure out, you know, if we've tried something for a couple of weeks and it's not working, we can change it. Whereas if you've just been sent a plan and it's not working, most of the time there's not someone that you can go to say, this isn't actually working, or I'm not feeling too good on this. You just have to follow what you've been told to follow. And the problem I have with them is that, again, for the most part, you're not really learning how to sustain this long term, because they're not sustainable long term. Hence why most of the clients I work with say to me, I've tried every single diet. Maybe I get a little bit of results, but then it doesn't last. I always seem to come back to square one again. Yeah. And that's because they're not teaching you anything. You're not learning how to do this in a real world scenario where you have real life things going on. You're working 12 hours a day. You've got kids running around. You've got to do the school run. You've got to get to the gym. It doesn't work with a proper normal lifestyle.
Yeah. And if it does, that'll be a case-by-case scenario, and you might know someone who it has worked for, and they're like, yeah, but I lost this much weight and I feel amazing. that's brilliant. It's worked for them, but it might not work for you in that same way. And neither of us are saying don't try, because if you're trying to better yourself, fantastic. If that's the only means that you are able to do, and that's the only way that you know of being able to lose weight, fine. But possibly just try and reach out to someone who may know what they're talking about in some line.
Could give you something slightly more personalised and
exactly,
a bit more tailored.
Yeah.
Callum's right. That's exactly what we're saying. We are not saying that none of them work and that you should avoid them. We're just saying do your research.
Yeah.
Maybe just get an idea of what's really involved in it before you just dive in, and make sure you think that's going to work for you and you're going to be able to maintain it and sustain it and feel good on it. Because at the end of the day, yes, fat loss is not easy. You're not going to feel amazing all the time, but you shouldn't be really, really miserable, really irritable and angry, and because you can't have the foods that you want.
Yeah.
That's just miserable for everyone, and that's why you're not going to want to stick to it.
And just because your mum's friend's neighbour's sister lost 5 kilograms on this diet, that she was on for X amount of weeks, and then she's come. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be.
Ask if she put it back on again.
Yeah, exactly. most of the time, they will have put it back on afterwards. It's a rebound weight that's going to happen, and if anything, it rebounds higher. This is what yo-yo dieting is.
Yeah, exactly.
This is where it comes from. It's a constant yo-yoing up and down on the scale weight, because people do put on more weight than they've lost, especially. And this is fact. This is research shown into this, especially if they cut foods out their diet entirely, you are more likely to crave those foods in the long term, and then when you are able to have them again, you go overboard.
Yeah.
So
rather than just having them in moderation in your day-to-day life. It's a really, really good point. And also that's where, as you said, the yo-yo dieting comes in, but also that binge restrict cycle and the all or nothing mentality we've spoken about. Because if you cut something out of your diet, chances are you're just going to want it more. It's when you're told you can't have something, you just think about it all the time, and you just start craving it until maybe the weekend comes around and the opportunity presents itself. And as you say, you go crazy with it, you overindulge, and you think, well, this is my only opportunity to have it, because come Monday I can't have it again. So you go overboard with it, whereas if you'd actually just allowed yourself to have it in moderation, you probably wouldn't have gone overboard. So then the restrict cycle comes back, because you feel so guilty about overindulging in it. From Monday you start restricting again, and then that cycle just repeats and repeats and repeats. And that's what we want to come away from, ideally, is just having something a lot more balanced and sustainable, I guess.
I think that's a really good place to end this episode.
Wow, 45 minutes already.
Bam. We've just been on a roll today.
Yeah. Well, I found that interesting, so I hope some other people did.
Yeah.
Got some facts.
Next week, I think we'd quite like to go... we're going to do the opposite.
Please stop hitting your microphone.
All right.
No, because
she's so aggressive.
Every time it does that, it goes... Bing!
No, that's if I flick these.
Okay, fine.
Which I won't do.
Sorry, I'm hungry. I'm hangry.
So I think we're going to do essentially the opposite. And we're going to look into cheat meals, reverse dieting, and bulking.
Oh, are we?
So like negatives and the side effects and things like that you might feel. Because not everyone is going to be cutting in January. So those of you who are on a bulk might feel a little bit different, or maybe you're not sure what that might entail down the line when you have to go into it. So we're going to give a few tips and tricks.
You're right. You want to try that again?
God, I'm stumbling over my words. Tips and tricks.
Bit of a tongue twister.
On how that might feel and how we would manage a bulk or a reverse diet.
Yeah, and if you don't even know what that is, tune in and we'll
explain it all.
Yeah.
Cool.
No facts this week?
No, because I kind of went in on the myths. I guess they're kind of facts, aren't they?
Fair. Okay. Well, I guess that brings this episode to an end. As always, make sure you check us out on YouTube, Spotify. We are now also on Apple Podcasts.
On Apple Podcasts. You can finally listen to us on Apple Podcasts. All the previous episodes are up as well. So make sure, if you obviously do use Apple Podcasts, tune into there.
Yep.
You can find us. You can follow us on Podbeans. We got a Facebook page, Instagram page,
TikTok.
We do post little snippets and stuff, reels and TikTok videos, shorts on YouTube of bits of things. So any love you can send us would be very much appreciated.
Yeah, and obviously, as always, any questions,
yes,
stories.
Please, stories. I want to hear some stories. Give us some stories.
Why has no one got any stories?
I know it's January. There's definitely some stories out there.
I think we're going to just have to start telling our own stories at this point.
Yeah. I don't really have any interest in stories.
We probably do, but
if I can think back,
we're just
I've probably got
out
some.
ourselves.
Yeah.
We'll get there. You know, we're still relatively new. But yeah, and if you can recommend us to any of your friends or family, we would love it.
Yeah, actually, this is one thing. I want every single one of you who's got this far in the podcast to send this to one person, one friend or family member. Just send it to them and be like, hey, I think you'd love to listen to this podcast. And if they do, they do. Maybe we'll gain an extra follower and you'll gain a better friend. Accolation.
On that note, I think it's time for us to go and eat some dinner.
Thank you very much for tuning in to
Thank you. That Gym Couple podcast.
Hosted by Callum and Lucy.
Starring Lucy.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye. I'm so tired.